What is going on, everybody? How we doing today? As usual, hope we're doing well. It is a Wednesday, so we're doing our usual Wednesday stream, and I'm hoping it's all going to be good tonight. I tried to stream last night because I had some time, and I figured, hey, why not? And for some reason, I just could not get the stream to actually work. I think I spent like 20 minutes on the longest attempt before it shit the bed, so I'm hoping everything is all good here. What is going on, Laksu Mansu? Hope you're doing well tonight, as well as anybody else who happens to be here. All three of you. Um, yeah, so it's Wednesday. We're doing our usual Wednesday stream. Just gonna be chilling. I got some stuff I want to talk about. I guess stuff on an agenda. I suppose, but we'll see what we can get around to other than that. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, that was so annoying last night. Like, and I've talked about it plenty of times. I just can't stand the way technology will just not work completely and totally independent of anything that you do, and you just have to like sit there and deal with it. Like, what are you gonna do? You have Xfinity. What are you gonna do? You're gonna go to Cox. You're gonna go from Cox to Verizon, FiOS, or anything like that. They're all the exact same. So you're doing everything you need to do. You got the setup, you got everything configured the right way. You've done nothing to fuck with anything. And then for some reason, for some fucking reason, your service provider decides they just want to fucking throttle you. Or maybe YouTube, because it's run by Indians, is absolutely positively not configured right on their end in some way. Just like something's going down at YouTube HQ or whatever. They got shit in the servers or something like that. They found a way to put shit in the cloud, and because of that, now you can't stream. So there's that. But excuse me, jeez. I was talking about some stuff last night. I was in the middle of venting actually about a situation that I got into um, last Saturday. It's been pretty eventful week, honestly. I passed my Security Plus test, so that's really good. And I passed it with very little studying. I'm actually impressed that I was able to pass it with the amount of studying that I did. It was it was one of those things where, because I have so much on my plate, I told myself that I would study harder later, and I just kept putting it off. And then eventually I ended up like the night before, I didn't like cram, but I did like an hour of studying. Basically, I did like an hour of practice questions and stuff like that, and I was still able to pass. So I'm happy with that, proud of myself there. Isn't there a blizzard going on that might have something to do with it? That's fair, that's fair. This blizzard did not The blizzard was one day is the issue. For some reason in New England, I don't know why, but we just forgot how to deal with snow. We just don't know how to deal with snow anymore. We had a good like 10 years where we did not have any like crazy snowstorms. The last major snowstorm that we had was in 2015, and that was actually multiple major snowstorms. I remember it was the dead of June. I'm talking about like summertime, like 80, 90, sometimes 100 degrees, and we still had snowbanks. That's how much snow we got that year. And the reason we had snowbanks is because the snow on the outside melts, but then the snow on the inside, the cold kind of cycles so that it makes it harder for it to just straight up melt. And the way it's looking now, that might be the way it is in June of this year, which would be absolutely insane. But yeah, since then, we haven't had anything too insane until this year. We had sort of a shitty storm a few weeks ago, and then not yesterday, 2 days ago, excuse me, we had really shitty storms. A really shitty storm, and because of that, jeez, I got like a nose hair that's making my nose itch. It's fucking annoying. Jeez, but anyway, yeah, like it's like we just forgot how to deal with snow, because the storm yesterday and the storm a few weeks ago, those were some of the worst storms we got in 10 or 11 years, and for some reason the streets don't get plowed. There's people in my area who like into Tuesday morning, their streets had not been plowed yet. And even like the main roads close to where I'm at, they were plowed, I guess, but you could tell they were plowed like once or twice in the beginning of the storm, and then they just let the snow fall because you're driving through snow. Like straight up snow. You are not hitting any any fucking bare pavement at all, you know? So my car is not that great. I won't call it a piece of shit, right? But it's not that great. At least not for snow, not for driving in the snow. So I'm getting stuck in intersections, and I got to do that thing where you go cut the wheel left, drive forward, cut the wheel right, drive forward, keep going left, then right, then left, then right. Okay, let's try reverse, trying to get myself unstuck. And luckily, I was able to get myself unstuck every time that it happened. But man, that was really fucking annoying, you know? What's going on, Dismodu, watching on Kick.com, which, by the way, anybody who's here, if you're not watching on Kick, I would appreciate it if you would at least follow me on Kick. By the way, tell Betty I said hello too. Anybody who's not watching on Kick right now or does not follow me on Kick, I would appreciate if you would follow me on Kick because I'm going to be doing Kick exclusive streams. And on those streams, we're going to be able to do things that we typically aren't able to do here. You know, like watch old fights from the Pride, the Strike Force, the old UFC era, WEC even. We're going to be watching a bunch of different things, but we're also going to be listening to music on there while we play games. Like tonight, I'm on YouTube, so I can't listen to music while I play video games. You know, it just is what it is. But you can do a lot of things on Kick that you can't do on YouTube. I'm not a gambler. I am not a gambler. But I've actually considered gambling streams just to fuck around, just to see what it's all about. I'm not the kind of person who gets addicted to gambling or anything like that. I'm more of a addicted to weed kind of guy. Is the type of dude that I am. That's why I won't touch weed again, because either A, I'm gonna hate it, or B, I'm gonna love it, and I'm gonna be right back to where I was when I was like 20, and I do not need that at all, you know. But yeah, like. I'm thinking about maybe fucking around with Stake or like another online gambling platform, you know, and we'll do our thing, you know. Anyway, one moment. Is my headset fucked or does he sound quiet? I might be quiet. I might be a little bit quiet, you know. But then again, your headset might also be fucked. There's plenty. I got to be honest with you guys. I mean, no offense, no disrespect at all. Okay, none at all. However, sometimes you guys will be like, "Hey, Scott, you're coming in quiet. You should turn it up." And I'll turn it up and I'll listen back later. And before I was told to turn my shit up, my audio was like perfect. It was like flawless practically. And then when I turned it up, now I'm peaking all of a sudden. Now you hear the you hear that like that type of shit, and it's just like, oh man, what the fuck. Anyway, but yeah, Scotty, we need you to teach Betty AOE too. She wants to learn AOE too. But anyway, here. I don't know if you guys are fucking with me or not, so I'm gonna listen in. There, like, I'm being honest with you guys when I tell you there's a 50-50 chance that yes, I am quiet and I need to redo my mic, but also that you guys just listen too low, and we're gonna get to the bottom of that right now. Anyway, let's see here. Is it true? I don't know. It sounds all right to me. I mean, granted, I'm turned all the way up. I am turned all the way up, you know? Let's see here. Is it true? I don't know. It sounds all right to me. I mean, granted, I'm turned all the way up. I am turned all the way up. Yeah, I don't know. I'll figure that out in a second. But anyway, you see, like, I gotta be honest with you guys about something else too. Now is not the time to tell me my mic is low. The time to do that is to wait till the stream is over and be like, yo, dude, here's how you fix your mic. Just sitting there in the chat, like, dude, fucking, yo, dude, fucking, your mic's low, bro. Your mic's low. It's like, all right, what do you want me to do about it? I'm not gonna fucking I'm not gonna troubleshoot the problem as it's going right now. I can try my best to do that, but I'm not gonna spend half the stream like, okay, so I'm gonna go into settings. I'm gonna go into settings. I'm gonna go into settings, and then I'm gonna, okay, let's see about this, and let's see about that, and let's you know, I appreciate trying to help, but it's like my wife tried to do it yesterday. I'm trying to drive through the fucking I'm trying to drive through the fucking snow, and she's trying to be like, but there's a car coming right there. It's like, that doesn't help me. That doesn't help me at all. Keep your mouth shut. you know, it's like, backseat driving. Backseat driving. Fucking. So for now, if I'm just being honest, I'm sorry, but you got to turn your fucking volumes up. Because that's the only way it's gonna. I'll try and troubleshoot this issue later on, but for now, just fucking use your volume thing is the only thing I know how to tell you. I've got my shit turned all the way up. It's gonna be peaking if I turn it up anymore. I'm literally like all the way up on Streamlabs, and then I also fucked around with my computer settings themselves, and I turned it up. So I don't want peaking. That's the last thing I want. Not to be an asshole or anything. I apologize if I sound like I'm being one. I'm not trying to. But anyway, just bought a diesel Jetta for 500. How's that for a gamble? A Volkswagen Jetta that runs on diesel? Is that what you're saying, Rusty? That's pretty crazy. Stoner Scott sounds hilarious. Just a big tie-dye shirt. Yeah, nah. I mean, I liked smoking weed because it kind of made me come out of my shell a little bit. But it was just not good. It was no bueno, no bueno. Oh, excuse me, jeez, man. Season 5 not too far off. Give me Freddy as a freeloader and let him drink whenever he wants. Yeah, I mean, I don't know anything about what's going on. I've kind of just like stepped away from that. After certain things that happened over the summer, not just talking about like Blood Games 2 falling through, but like things that I noticed when I was at the house. And no, I'm not talking about allegations type shit. I'm talking about the attitude towards me specifically and some other people. I was just like, yo, whatever, bro, fuck it. Like, I'll let them call me. If they never call me again, fuck it, who cares? I'm gonna just do my thing. I am curious though. Like, I saw they updated the UI. I like the UI on the site. Whoever did the UI did a really good job with that. It's very very smooth, very intuitive. I do like that. But yeah, like I'm not trying to be like up to date with the latest fish tank stuff. Maybe we'll stream a little bit of it to see what's up. Like we'll react to some of it just to see what's up. But overall, it's like fucking whatever. Who cares? I'll just do my thing. Oh man, what the hell is going on here? Anyway, please spend half the stream attacking these sound settings, Scott. Your volume is fine. People are insane. Yeah, like everybody's a little bit different. So what sounds low to one person might be high to another person. You can't even get proper mixing on Hollywood. Well, actually, A24 technically is not Hollywood movies, but you can't even, like, major motion pictures. You can't even get proper sound mixing on those. And I'm not like some kind of audiophile. People have been complaining about this, and I finally noticed it the other day where I watched The Smashing Machine, which is, of course, about Mark Kerr, who's a Pride guy. I never really watched his stuff, but we'll watch some of his fights when we do a Kick exclusive. Like, it especially because it was on, I think it was on Prime Video. I was watching it, so we did have to deal with dumbass ads. We'd have the TV turned up to like 30, 40 on the audio setting, and then a commercial would hit, and it would feel like we're getting screamed at by the fucking Mr. Clean commercial or something like that. We had to keep turning up, turning down, turning up, turning down, and it's because for some reason they just couldn't get their shit done. And it's like, this sounded good enough to somebody. Nobody, like somebody whose job it was to decide whether the levels were good or not. They saw that and they went, fucking perfect. That's exactly what I want. And then they put that out there, and now you go to the theater, or you watch on Amazon Prime or something like that, and it's just like terrible that way, you know. That's another thing, is like, that's why I don't like going to the movies all the time, because my autist brain does not like loud noises that much. It's not even the like, it's not even loud noises, like, whatever, who cares. But like, what pisses me off is horror movies where like they throw like a, I don't even know how to describe it, but like it's like it's like the end of a car crash, like not the fucking the original impact, but like almost like the end of the sound that the crash makes. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about, but horror movies do that all the time now. It's like no music, silence. It's formulaic. It's formulaic, much like jump scares, And it's just like, man, I fucking hate that shit. That's so awful, That's terrible. But anyway, if they do Blood Games 2, Alex B's wife as a boss would go so hard. Yeah, she'd go a little too hard, you know. Oh boy. Oh boy. That's one person I probably would not want to meet. I'll meet Alex B, right? Me and Alex B, I give Alex shit and he gives me a reaction. I don't actually have anything against Alex B. I don't think he has anything against me either. I think he just gets into a roll. He just goes on a roll and he can't stop himself. But Alex B's wife, I'm just not. I'm not, dude. I almost got into a fucking fight with not the woman, but like this woman's son, who is exactly like fucking Alex B's wife, like short, fat bitch, attitude, Latina, you know. Um, and I was telling that story. I almost got into a fight in a restaurant on Saturday. I told the story, I think, on Saturday or Sunday. The next time I streamed after that, but I'll tell it again. Fucking, I walk into a restaurant, right? The hostess is not there, so we're waiting for the hostess to get back so that she can seat us. And like 2 to 3 minutes after we walk in, this family of like five like Hispanic people come in, and they're American Hispanic people, which in Boston you don't want to be around them, because not only do they have that like Dominican, Puerto Rican, like, hey papi, don't you think you can talk to me like that? I will put on my New York Yankees hat and I will kick your ass. Like they have that like that chauvinistic sort of Latino thing going on, where they think they're better than everybody and they get to do whatever they want. And then also, because they were born and raised here, they have that combined with the fucking Dorchester, Brockton, Fall River, like trash, like, hey, fuck you, cocksucker kind of attitude. So we're just sitting there waiting for the hostess, and when the hostess rounds the corner, this bitch goes right over to her and is like, excuse me, we have a reservation. I didn't like that. I was like, yeah, we were here first. And she looks at me and she's like, no, we have a reservation though. And I was like, all right, well, we were here first. You should have waited for us to talk to her. And then she tried to make it my fault. She was like, oh, well, you didn't say anything, so I just went over, and I don't get mad at me because you didn't say anything. So I told her to go fuck herself. And then her fat ass fucking son, who's probably like 21, 22, maybe 23, he decides he wants to get in my face. Luckily, nothing erupted. But the only reason nothing erupted is because after he stepped up into my face, he remained completely fucking still. He made real sure to not make any sudden movements. The second he made a sudden movement, I would have put my elbow in his fucking head, just like Dean the Great, you know? Either that, or I would have headbutted him. It would have either been a short elbow or a headbutt. I didn't really make that decision, you know? But it's like I just don't want to be around those kinds of people. The like, I was born in America, but my dad or my grandpa or whatever was like from fucking DR or something like that. I don't want to be around that, you know. There's just always something, there's always an attitude. They're always trying to fucking start shit with somebody and then they're making it your fault, you know? And they ended up backing off. Like the lady started talking in a way that you could tell she was trying to de-escalate without having to say sorry. She was like, "Look, we just came in and we were just letting them know that we had a reservation. That's it. That's all we were doing." And then the fucking I almost said the boyfriend, the son, you know, he took a step back, you know, and I was like, "All right, whatever." You know, but it's like, fuck, man. I'm tired of being in New England because like you have people who they come from other cultures and they don't abandon that culture, and like a lot of those cultures are chauvinistic. Like even I love Brazilians. You know, I'm married to a Brazilian. My in-laws are Brazilian, right? Um I feel comfortable around Brazilians, but like even they have a bit of a chauvinist side to them, you know, and it doesn't come out the way it comes out in like Puerto Ricans or Dominicans or Somalians or Haitians or you know, iffy. Haitians can be pretty chill. Haitians can be pretty chill. Cape Verdeans, right? They have a bit of a chauvinistic side to them that they don't see a problem with. So you have these people who they're born to these like cultures in America. They never abandoned that and really became American, but also they were raised in like Brockton. So because of that, now they have like the worst of both worlds. That asshole New England guy and that asshole dude who the DR was so great he had to come here and stay here. That's how great DR was, you know? It's like fuck man. I cannot stand being around people. I can't wait to get out of New England. I cannot wait to get the fuck out of New England, you know? Because I guarantee you, if we were in another area of the country, it probably would have happened a little bit different. She would have been a little bit more patient. She would have had the decency to be like, "Oh, excuse me, are you in line?" And we would have been like, "Yeah, we are." And then we would have talked to the lady, and then the lady would have talked to her after, you know? Like that type of shit. It's like, yo, like, mm, it's awful. If you live around here, if you fucking live around here, you know what I'm talking about, and you know exactly what I'm fucking talking about. You know, if you don't live around here, you might actually mistake me for one of the asshole. I was talking to Taylor about this the other day. Me and Taylor from PKA were playing some video games, and like we were talking about the difference in niceties, in politeness, in courtesy, and stuff like that. And he told me like, yeah, in the Midwest, like everybody, no matter who they are, manners, manners, manners. You know, that's not how it is in fucking New England, dude. And people mistake me for like the Boston schmuck asshole because in order to survive and not get walked all over, I had to kind of I had to kind of stare into the abyss a little bit, and the abyss stared back into me. So because of that, I started talking with a slight Boston accent, and I started getting a little bit aggro over things that you don't even need to be aggro about, you know. But like, I'm the nice guy. I'm the nice Boston guy. I am the nicest Boston guy you have ever met, you will ever see. I promise you that. I fucking promise you that, dude. It, it's wild the things you have to deal with around here, you know? Even yesterday, right? I'm driving again, snow completely covering the roads. They didn't do a good enough job plowing. I'm driving with the wife to a store. There's these two dudes, two Asians is what they were. You know when those Asians wear shiesties and stuff like that, you know, as they're known to do. Yeah, that's who it was. Um, we take a right, and in order for me to not get stuck, I have to keep the momentum going. I can't fucking afford to slow down. And there's these two dudes walking in the fucking street. So I do the like tap your horn thing, like that thing, to just be like, "Hey, like people are behind you, dude. Like you're making us wait. You got to get out of the way." And the dude turns around, starts walking to the side, and he starts like mouthing off. You know, it's like that type of shit. That's what you deal with in New England. You know, it's like the worst shit you would see. Maybe not the worst shit, but the attitudes you get from people who live in like Atlanta, Georgia, who live in Baltimore, Maryland, who live in Southside Chicago, Detroit, Michigan, the attitudes you get from people there, right, in the ghetto, you get that from fucking everybody everywhere in New England. And it's awful. It's fucking terrible, you know? Um, do you think there will be alpha male role models types in new Fish Tank? There was John, you, Sam, Luke Valentine, and four other dudes from four. I mean, I don't know what's gonna happen. You know, um, they'll probably have somebody that's supposed to be ironic. Like you know, it's been a long time now, and my understanding is that Jet and John are not on good terms. We can admit that like the reason John was put on there is because it's funny to hear the guy who's like an Andrew Tate dude also talk like this. It's funny, you know. John's self-aware, believe it or not. He knows himself. He knows his accent, his European accent, right? He knows his European accent is a little bit funny, you know. Um, but like it's that's it wouldn't surprise me if you have more people who are like that, like the orthodox larper, Andrew Tate type guy, because those guys are fun to fuck with and it's fun to see them like do their thing, you know. Except instead of it being a situation where like John kind of, you know, he kind of we kind of work with him a little bit, they're just gonna straight up bully the fuck out of this guy, I'm willing to bet, because Sam trying to help people. I don't know why I couldn't get that word out. Sam trying to help people is a Sam thing, and if Sam's not going to be around anymore, Jet and Ben are not going to be like, oh, let's see if we can, through the power of boxing, let's see if we can help this guy to become a better version of himself. You're not going to get that from Jet and Ben. Those guys will absolutely positively bully the fuck out of people. It's just the way it is, you know? That's what they wanted the show to be. I think Sam, for him, helping people like John was a way for him to kind of be like, okay, yeah, we're fucking with people, but it's not completely and totally mean spirited. And, you know, we are kind of pulling back and we're doing things to try and help people, you know? So it's not like we're just like, oh, look at this fucking retard. He's a fucking idiot. You're retarded, you fucking dumbass. It's not like it's just constantly that, you know? So yeah. What are your thoughts on orthodoxy? If you put a gun to my head and said you cannot live in a Catholic society, you have to choose orthodoxy or Islam, or orthodoxy and basically orthodoxy and any other major religion, I would pick orthodoxy. You know, I am a Catholic. You know, I'm not into that brother wars shit. We can have our disagreements and not be swinging for the knees like some other Orthodox dudes do, right? Because if we're being honest here, there's a lot of Orthodox guys that they're really only in it because it is a fad. It's a way for them to feel like they're correct. They're in it for prideful and physical, earthly reasons, right? We can be honest about that. I'm not saying it's all of them, but as far as the closest thing to what I believe in, yeah, it's the closest thing to what I believe in. So I would rather live in an Orthodox society than say like a Protestant society or a Muslim society, an Islamic society, you know? And that's why it pisses me off to see people. I got into an argument with Jay Dyer. I talk about that every now and again, right? And the reason I talk about that every now and again is the same reason I'm still kind of upset about, well, actually, no, it's the same but different. I don't like seeing people that I know should be friends of mine, meaning allies, not like me and Jay Dyer are going to be best buds or anything. But I don't like seeing friends create brother wars and then turn around and be like, you're the one who's fucking being this way, dude. The same thing happened with the Ukraine-Russia thing. It's like Russia invaded Ukraine. You can say whatever you want about why they invaded. The bottom line is Ukraine does not want to be a part of Russia. Maybe certain areas of Ukraine wanted to be, but Ukraine as a whole does not want to be a part of Russia. So to sit here and be like, it's a brother war thing and Ukraine's at fault, it's like, you fucking paste eater, shut up, you know? And that's my issue with a lot of Orthodox LARPers, you know? I guess you could call them LARPers as opposed to the actual real Orthodox guys who are in it because they feel that that's the best and potentially the only way to commune with God, to commune with Christ, you know? Um, but yeah, so like I have no issues with orthodoxy. I'm not going to be the guy who tries to argue theology with an ortho bro. I'm like I'm not clergy. I'm not even a scholar. Like I understand things on a philosophical level because I don't know, I just do. But like when it comes to the political side of that, the like you know, the debate about the Trinity, right? I don't know. I couldn't tell you. So I'm not going to sit here and like get into some big argument about it, you know? Um um I just joined and I'm from the Atlanta area. Oh boy. Good luck, Smoke Sigs. Good luck. Oh, excuse me. Um I jump in and Scott's talking about what he does when kids talk back in his classes. LOL, Asian gangsters in New England are the nerdiest shit, but they will actually try to fight you. Yeah. Yeah. You know, it's fucking ridiculous. I'm just, I'm like, I want easier living, and I mean that in every way possible. I don't want to leave the house thinking I might have to get into a fist fight, you know? I don't want to leave the house and like not return until sundown. Like there's, I had some stuff that I was supposed to talk about today, and one of them I wasn't planning on talking about it, but I'll go ahead and I'll show it to you. It's a tweet that I made. You know, gonna go ahead and um, gonna read a tweet from the realest motherfucker that I know. The realest. Yeah. So it's actually not the realest motherfucker I know. It's the dumbest guy that I've seen since yesterday. KCB Head. This dude. It would not surprise me to find that this guy is like not real at all. If this is run by an Indian or something like that. This is actually kind of blowing up this tweet here. You know, I'm curious what yeah, like 2.8 million views. You know, but anyway. You could get a job at the Littleton Coin Company and buy this house just off Main Street, then meet a nice girl at St. Rose of Lima and take her on a date to Schilling Beer Company. Get married and send your kids to Above the Notch Community School, but you will not. Yeah, of course I will not. You're like an hour away from Canada if you live in Littleton, New Hampshire. There is no opportunity out there. What happens if I try to get a job at Littleton Coin Company, but they're not hiring? What do I do then? You I'm going so what you're telling me is I need to go to a place where I might not get hired by the one major like wagey um, company, I guess you could say, wagey employer. And then if I don't get hired by them, I'm gonna have an even harder time finding work because one, there's not that many opportunities, and two, I'm an outsider to this community. This is one of those communities where, like, talking about Littleton, this is one of those communities where there's like maybe a couple thousand people. And in fact, let's look that up. Let's look that up. Littleton, New Hampshire. New Hampshire. Um, yes. Littleton is a town in Grafton County, New Hampshire, United States. The population was 6,005 people at the 2020 census. 6,000. My hometown has probably 50 to 70,000 people in it, and we are not a big ass town. We are not a big ass town at all, you know? Um, you're not just going to move up to a place like this and everyone's going to be like, "Oh, hey, yeah, no, it's totally cool." There's just a random outsider who's here. He's not a ski tourist or anything like that. He thinks he's going to get in here. Places like that are essentially finished communities. And what I mean by that is they have a plumber, they don't need another plumber. If you try to go there and you decide you're going to become a plumber, you're not going to get work because everybody's going with that other guy who's been here for years, who's been here for fucking generations. This is one of those places where you were born there and your dad is a plumber and you become a plumber because one day your dad's not going to be around anymore and well, shit, you got that market cornered. So why don't you just go into the family business? And sure enough, you'll be the Littleton, New Hampshire plumber at that point. You know, there's a lot of issues with this. You know, that's one of them that I didn't actually talk about in the tweet that I was, you know, that I made here. Another one, right? I'll just read you this. I'm from Massachusetts, and a few buddies of mine moved up to New Hampshire. Some in this very area. I can tell you it's a pipe dream. Real estate is still expensive, and yes, not even 1,000 square feet, 3 beds. Where's the third bed? Is this where the third bedroom is? You got to be kidding me if you think you're gonna fit My my apartment where I live right now is 1,000 square foot, and there are 2 beds. You could not fit a third bedroom in my apartment. It's not how it's gonna go. 3 beds, 1 bath, 924 square feet, $200,000. That is not worth $200,000. And even then, there is still going to be a problem with this house. You're gonna need a new radiator, or a boiler or a whatever, right? You're gonna need a new something. You're gonna need to replace the shingles or something like that. There will be a problem with this house, 100% guaranteed. I can promise you that. Real estate is still expensive. There's an issue with this house, and you're gonna end up paying out the ass to fix it. You're also paying for less opportunity in a community you're an outsider in, worse weather, etc. You go there hoping for libertarian, leave me alone paradise, and find out your neighbors are in this house liberals who are taking over the town slowly through the same means they always do. This is very true. I actually went, and in fact, I believe I visited Littleton in November. I ended up going to Lincoln, New Hampshire, which is like 10, 15 minutes away from Littleton. You literally drive down one road and you get to Littleton. We visited Littleton, and what's it called? Fucking the what I'm trying to explain is like I've been there, right? And when you go to these places, you would be very surprised at the amount of people who own like candle shops. There are people from Vermont or Massachusetts who decided they wanted to get away from the high taxes or just some other aspect of those states that sucks. And because they're filled with hippies and shit libs, well, the people who flood a state like New Hampshire, they're going to be hippies and shit libs. That's just the way it is. That's how it goes. So you have these people who they all suck and they're slowly taking over your town. The town that was supposed to be like the libertarian free state paradise, you have to deal with some fucking wine mom with a side cut that's dyed pink, trying to convince you that you need to let your son be a daughter. And if you don't, they're gonna call CPS on you or some shit like that. It's fucking insane. They bought their house with Nepo baby money or came this way 10 years ago to escape shitty prices in mass, and now you gotta deal with them transing your kid, which is exactly what I said. And sure enough, like I had 3 or 4 buddies over the years who were like, hey dude, I hear New Hampshire's the promised land. I'm gonna fucking head on up. And it takes them like the better part of a year to realize, oh no, this place sucks ass. This is not good. I got to get the fuck out of here. And sure enough, a couple of my buddies are in Utah right now. They're living in Salt Lake City. Another buddy of mine, I lost contact with him. He just kind of fell. He didn't even fall off. He told us he couldn't talk to us anymore. He's actually a dude from the activism days. Somebody that REA knows as well. He moved down to Florida. That was the last I heard from him. There's another dude who's in like West Virginia, and there might be like one more. Oh yeah, the one more guy. He was like, actually, fuck New Hampshire and America, and he just started traveling the world. He was like, fuck it, who cares? Got a remote job, started traveling around, went to Poland, went to Ukraine. He got sent back to Poland when he was in Ukraine because they thought he was going to try and join the fight. Um, it's crazy. It's insane. When I was a kid in like '05 or '06, they used to spike their hair like fucking Goku when he went Super Saiyan, though it wasn't always blonde. But it was a look. Yeah, I can. Oh, you're talking about Asians. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't even just Asians doing that. Like frosted tips were a big thing. How about one of those Oriental religions? I couldn't do an Oriental religion because the way I see it, it is too earthly. And the reason I say that is because if you want to get what is considered to be like the good, the most pious ending, and I'm aware that there's monks in both Orthodoxy as well as Catholicism. I'm aware of this too, but one of the biggest and like most authoritative aspects of, say, Buddhism are the guys who shave their head, go up in the mountains, and don't ever talk to a woman again. Um, you don't need to do that in Christianity, especially Christianity, in order to get what you could consider to be the good ending. It is more about the cleanliness of the spirit than the cleanliness of your physical being or anything like that. And I understand that, the Buddhists, they consider the physical to inform the spiritual. I get that. And that's also why some people go monk, become monks in Christianity, obviously, right? But when you see something like Buddhism or Hinduism, it's almost like completely necessary to be able to get what they consider to be their like good ending, if you will. You know, there's always a talk about like karma and um, you need to fulfill your dharmic obligations or whatever, right? There's always some kind of shit regarding like the if you're gonna end up excuse me, you're gonna end up being reincarnated because you crushed a bug once. There's always some kind of shit like that, and that's why those guys become monks, is because they're trying to rise above that suffering and that rebirth, that death rebirth cycle. So it's like, well, I just don't think it's I just don't think it's completely legit. I think it's probably a misunderstanding or a misinterpretation or a trick from Satan that Indians and certain groups of Asians picked up on and were like, "Yep, that's our thing." Um, there's a house over there that's 37 meters squared and it went for like 200K. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Doesn't surprise me. I would assume you're talking about New Hampshire. By the way, what's going on, Cavalog? Hope you're doing well. Um, somebody, um, someone retweeted this and ran the numbers for expenses and the mortgage, and literally you'd have $217 left a month. Oh yeah, exactly. I like there's a certain hatred that people have for each other, specifically the older generations for the younger generations, and the Gen Xers are the new boomers. Boomers still exist, but you're not seeing the boomers that were born in like the 40s anymore. They're all dying or dead. What you're seeing are the boomers who were born in like the early 60s now. Like mid to late 50s, early 60s. Those are the ones that can still use the bathroom without needing a diaper or a catheter or something like that. And because of that, when it comes to the old person zeitgeist, they really, really control it. They really got it locked down. But you're starting to see Gen Xers get older and older, and they're starting to boomer post. And that's because, truthfully, Gen Xers and boomers are not that different. The early boomers had Gen Xers, and they were so similar in mindset to the boomers. I just consider them boomer number two, basically. Um, but yeah, you're seeing these Gen Xers who like, because they got in on the ground floor, they got in like the very last shares were being sold, and Gen Xers bought up those shares, so now they're on the ground floor. And millennials, Gen Z, and soon to be Gen A, because I feel like those guys are getting a little bit older too. They now have to carry the fucking bag. They're the bag holders. They're the ones getting rug pulled. And because of that, Gen Xers are like, oh, well, actually, it's your fault. It's your fucking fault. If you didn't buy so much avocado toast, and if you weren't so afraid to work, well, then you know what, you'd have a better job, and you'd have a house, and you'd be able to save. And it's like, no, that's not the case, you fucking idiot. You dumb motherfucker. Get out of my face. And then somebody else made a very good point about that. You never see it's only guys. It's only guys that you see being told to do this stuff. You never have a post from those guys talking about like, hey ladies, if you want happiness, here's what you have to do. Don't move out of your hometown, just stay there, and somebody will either move there, or somebody that maybe you didn't even expect will end up dating you, and you'll have kids. I almost said a wife. You'll have kids and you'll be happy, and you'll be able to survive that much better. Get married to the guy who didn't leave your hometown. Get married to the cop. But no, women get told what you need to do is go to college, and you need to be small girl in the big city, and you gotta have multiple sexual partners, and you just gotta be like an absolute like piece of shit. Just be a piece of shit. You never see women being told, hey, look, if you want a life, if you want a good life, here's what you got to do. It, it's like men's and women's self-help books. If you look at a men's self-help book, if you get like a PDF version of a men's self-help book, and you control F and you search the words you need or you should or you have to, you're gonna find like tons and tons and tons of examples of like being told, here's what you got to do, here's what you need. There's a focus on becoming, right? And with women's self-help, it's always you deserve. If you control F, you deserve, or just deserve, you're gonna see tons and tons of examples of them being told you deserve this, you deserve that. It's being versus becoming. Men have to become, women are just being. They just are, um and I want to start doing articles on Twitter. Not that people are going to read them. It's just for the creative outlet. I want to start doing articles on Twitter where I talk about certain things, and one of those things is the act of becoming as a man, because 21-year-old Scott and 31-year-old Scott are two completely different guys, and it's because of a bunch of different things. But in order to become 31-year-old Scott, I didn't just sit here and wait. What I did was, one, I started getting serious about mixed martial arts. My issue with my record is not a lack of talent. I'm very talented, and I've always been very talented at any physical activity. I can pick up a sport even now very, very quickly, and I can be proficient, pretty even good at it very, very quickly. Um, but my issue was that I didn't work hard enough in the ways that I needed to work. And that's a lesson that MMA taught me, is that, look, you can't half-ass this, dude, because somebody who's not half-assing it will blow right through you. You'll get blown. You'll get blown is what'll happen. Um, and another thing, right, was activism. Activism made me work as a team better. It helped me to learn organizational skills. It helped me. And when I say organizational skills, like I'm still a slob. I have like tons of shit just laying around. What I mean is being able to manage human resources, not HR, human resources, but literally like, okay, I have this guy on my team. He's very good at this thing. I'm going to push him to do that thing because that's going to work better. And then there's other aspects of that. It made me into a leader, and it put me close to danger, physical and other danger. We had law enforcement looking at us, not just local or state law enforcement. Like, we were being looked at seriously. And the crazy thing is, we didn't even fucking do anything illegal in the first place. But there were guys who got door knocked, if I'm being honest with you. I was lucky to not have that happen. Gonna knock on some wood there. And like, there was no reason for it to happen to any of us anyway, because like, what were we doing? We were just like, we would show up to First Amendment rallies, and if somebody tried to fight us, we would protect ourselves. Like, that's not anything to do, but that's just the way that it goes, right? um Being that close to the fire, even though I personally didn't get touched by it to this point, um it was it was formative. It taught me to be more responsible. It taught me to be more thoughtful. It taught me to control myself a little bit better, you know? And that's something that I've had a hard time telling people, is like, if you're a young man, like you have to look for danger on a certain level. You have to be willing to lean into, steer into danger, not for danger's sake, but because something needs to be accomplished. You know, you need to protect innocent women and children, which is what we were doing at those rallies. You know, Antifa wanted to pick on the weak. They wanted to pick on old people. They wanted to pick on people who couldn't fight back. They wanted to outnumber them. We saved people from getting hurt on numerous occasions, you know? Um, like you need to be willing to go into it, even though it means that, like, yeah, you might get surrounded by the cops and have to talk your way out of it, which I have video of that, by the way. Aria was there too. There was a day where the cops tried to surround us and get our information so that they could dox us, and we had to stand firm. Most people would pussy out, and in fact, I believe some people did kind of try to be like, "Oh, okay, why don't we just tell him? Why don't we just tell him?" You know? But yeah, you got to like as a man, that's part of the adventure. And that's the beautiful thing about it, is that it can be tough, it can be hard, and it can be scary sometimes, but it is an adventure. And when you're assuming you're not one of the guys that falls by the wayside, because that's just a reality of that kind of thing, you're going to have dudes that fall off. You know, you're gonna have dudes that, like, they do the wrong thing. They make a misstep, and they fall off the cliff, and you either never see them again or worse. You know, um, but like, it is an adventure, and I look back to that time in my life as the best time of my life, hands down, easy, 100%. Like, Fish Tank was cool. I would trade Fish Tank for more years of that, if I'm being honest with you. You know, as much as I loved Fish Tank, I, man, you know, when I got out, it was time, both personally as well as the way that the world was going. It was just, there was not room for what we were doing the way we were doing it anymore. So we all just kind of, all right, whatever. But it was really, it was good. It was good, you know, and it made me into the man that I am today. A lot more calm, a lot more patient, a lot more willing to listen and learn, you know. So there's that. Looking thin and handsome today, Scott. Thank you very much, gay guy. I appreciate that, my friend. Um, Gen Xers be like, stop playing fork knife and buy a house. Exactly. That's literally them. You know. Anywho, the closest I have to adventures is when me and my friends would hike around New Hampshire and Vermont, and also when I did it with randos around New York. One time, did a through hike, 28 miles, was fucking great. Yeah, like, it doesn't even always have to be like, oh, I'm doing something and I could get arrested for it, right? Like, it doesn't even always have to be something like that. Like, doing something like that, like a 28-mile hike in a day, yeah, that's tough, you know? There has to be a challenge. There has to be some semblance of like, if I make the wrong move, I either wasted a ton of time and energy and money, or I am setting myself back severely, or some other thing like that, you know? And you make too many wrong moves on a hike, and you're gonna have to call the helicopter. You're gonna have to call the Coast Guard to fucking airlift you. You know, that type of shit. I tried to hike the Skyline Trail in Blue Hills, which, like, I don't think that's the longest trail ever, but I decided to do it with, like, a friend of mine on a random day in the summer. It's like July, August, something like that. And we brought like one Gatorade, and we're just hiking this trail, this like miles and miles long trail. We had to bail. We had to bail out. We were like, yo, we made a mistake. We should have been a little bit more prepared, you know? Excuse me. Um, there's something about being that close to the fire, though. Oh yeah, you know, it's exciting. It puts you in a place where you really feel like you're alive, you know? Um, there's something about there's something about waking up the day of a rally, grabbing your bag that you prepared the day before. It's got a change of clothes. It's got other sneakers, because people will identify you utilizing your sneakers. It's even got a spare backpack in there so that you can change out the backpack. and you go and you meet your boys in a random alleyway and you get naked, and then you throw the change of clothes on, and that change of clothes is strikingly similar to the guy next to you because that's the point of a block, right? People think a black block is just like that's like an Antifa thing. No, like a block tactics, they don't, it doesn't even just have to be black block. You see like red block and things like that too. Commies like to do that. As long as you're all wearing similar clothing, a similar color, you're in good shape. You emerge from the alleyway and you're like a block or two away, no pun intended. You're a block or two away from the rally that you're supposed to go to, and you show up. And then after the rally, Antifa outnumbers you, and they're sending dudes all over the fucking city to monitor the subway stations, and they have people who are following you. So you either A, have to get ready to fight some dudes, or B, you have to try to lose them so that you can duck into an alleyway and you can change back into your regular clothing. And like I said, change out of your shoes, change the backpack around, and then throw that on, and then emerge from the alleyway. And you see the guys that were just looking for you, that were just following you a second ago. You were able to lose them for just enough time that when you got out of that alleyway, they don't realize it's you walking by them, the guys that you were hunting down. There is something so fucking exhilarating about that, and I loved every second of it. It was so great. It was so fucking awesome. You know. Um, but yeah, anyway. Yo, happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday to you too, CPT. Hope you're doing well tonight, Um, Skyline is 9 miles. If you do Big Blue, I just go to the state police barracks. Yeah, I think we were trying to do Big Blue that day. I think we were trying to do Big Blue. Man. Anywho. Checking something real quick. All right, well, anyway, there was a couple of things I wanted to talk about, right? This is one. I have some bookmarked posts that I need to pull up. So this is Raindrops Media, which is one of those like one of those basically a black Twitter kind of fucking account. Student accused of running towards police instead of confronting the mob. Right? We'll go ahead. We'll take a look. So he gets bopped. You can see multiple people ready to try and do harm to this guy. And he does the smart thing, if anything, So there's one major thing that I want to talk about with this, right? And like usually I try to make sure that I'm being some form of educational when it comes to talking about like street fights and confrontations and things like that. And I guess this kind of goes into the psychology category because it does work to understand the psychology of a criminal, which that's what this kid is right here. That's what his boys are. They're criminals. That was a crime that just occurred. This guy clearly does not want to fight, but you're seeing the death of like hood culture and thug culture and stuff like that. And there's a couple of reasons for that. For one thing, people are realizing just how much Diddy shit is in that ghetto culture and stuff like that. But then in addition to that, people are realizing that there was never any code to it or anything like that, right? One of the reasons why people were willing to embrace that whole like hood culture thing is because they assumed that there was some kind of like code to it, that there was a way for it to make a little bit of sense, Like for instance, don't snitch, don't snitch on your enemy. You deal with that yourself, right? But people are realizing that there is no such thing as that like code of the streets or anything like that. And what this criminal culture really is just a way for weak people who only exist because they're allowed to exist, because the better people in society don't do anything to get rid of them. And I'm not saying they should. Don't do anything crazy. Don't like I'm just saying like on a conceptual level, a dude like this only exists and is only willing to do that type of shit because nobody else has come around and ripped his head off yet. Not saying to do it. I'm just saying conceptually, theoretically, that is why this kid is the way he is. Um, this whole criminal culture is just a way for weak people who only exist because they're permitted to try and shame victims into being victims. That's it. This kid right here, he's a victim, and I don't mean that in a patronizing way. I mean that as in he didn't want to fight. This dude decided he was going to throw a punch, and his boys started to try and surround him, so he decided to run, which is the smart thing to do. You should never try and fight multiple people. Even someone like me, why would I stick around and try and fight multiple people? I'm just going to get the hell out of there. Um, this kid, though, right? He did the smart thing, and that was not okay, according to this dude and his friends and Raindrops Media, I guess, and people who subscribe or follow Raindrops Media. I guess I have a few people that I follow who follow this whatever this account. I almost called it a company, but um, it's just a way for people who are only able to get away with crime because they utilize the anarcho tyrannical safeties that were put onto society to get away with it. And whenever they face any real opposition, it doesn't even have to be stiff opposition. Whenever someone says, no, I'm not going to let that happen, I'm going to call the police, or no, I'm not going to let that happen, I'm going to fight you, or when someone like this gets fucking shot and killed, whether it's by a cop or a civilian, the bitching starts, the complaining starts, the kvetching starts, the crying out while they strike you starts. That's just the way it is with a lot of this YN culture. That's just the way that they are, you know? You can talk about race. I'm sure there's going to be people, because I plan on making this into a video as well. There's going to be people in the comments as well as in the chat who they want to make it into a race thing, and I'm not going to be the one to do that. But the fact is, there is an issue with that whole YN culture, and that issue is, no, but I'm the criminal. I'm supposed to do crime. You're the victim. You're supposed to be the victim. What are you doing running to where the police are? What are you doing? You know, you're a total pussy, dude. That's a bitch move. You know, bro, that's a bitch move. You not letting me, you not letting me rob you. You not letting me stomp your head in with me and my 10 friends. No, no, you're a bitch for that, dude. You're a straight bitch. Like that's the way that they are, you know? And you need to understand that about criminals is that a lot of the time, all you have to do, and I'm not telling you to do anything crazy or anything like that. Like I said, I'm not telling you to like hunt these people, but if some dude came over to me like that, all I would have to do and all you would have to do is put up some resistance. That's it. I'm not, look, I'm not saying like I said, don't go overboard, but also make sure the resistance is real. Don't just like give them a look and puff your chest out. You have to be willing to fight back. You know, if you fight back, you're going to find that these dudes, one, can't fight themselves. And two, when there's resistance, they don't want any because they're not looking for a fight. They're looking for a victim. So if you're not a victim, you're fine, you know. Another aspect of this, and this kind of goes into psychology. This kind of go, more your psychology than criminal psychology. One of the big issues with the crime wave that we've been experiencing for years now is that I don't know if it's the majority, but a great deal of the crime that is occurring is being done by kids under the age of 18. Some of them not even 17. I'm talking like 14, 15, 16-year-old kids. And if you want to make sure that you're not going to be a victim, if you want to make sure that you are going to be safe, you have to ask yourself what happens when some 15-year-old punk and two of his friends decide they're going to try and press you. I'm not telling you what to do. I know what I'm going to do, though. I know what I would do. But you have to understand that it's probably not going to be some 30-year-old dude for the most part. I'm not saying never. It's mostly not going to be some 30-year-old dude, right? It's very possibly, very likely going to be a 16, 17-year-old kid who looks like a kid. This kid's probably 14, 15. He looks young. He looks like a child, you know? You have to be comfortable with making the right decision when some kid like this comes up to you trying to fuck with you, you know, whatever that decision may be. Oh, excuse me. Anyway, why I always carry. The crowd might get me, but someone is getting a lobotomy. Yeah, I mean, fucking you got to be careful. Like you do got to be careful, and that's why I'm careful to tell you, hey, I'm not telling you to do anything, and I'm not telling you how to handle situations. I'm just saying that if the situation was 110% right for you to do this, you're gonna have to fight. You know, because I personally have accepted the fact that if I fight somebody in public, there's a good chance I'm going to get arrested. And that's why I'm very careful to be very polite to people. And even the other day, I told you about that kid who tried to get in my face because his mom was being a fucking fat bitch. Um, like I could have swung on that dude. I could have put hands on him right away. It could have happened. I've done it for less. I've done it for a lot less than that, actually. But I was in the middle of a restaurant that I wanted to get some food from, and I didn't want to get banned from the restaurant and then also have to deal with the police showing up. I wouldn't have waited around if that happened. I'm not sitting there waiting, even if I know the police are on their way. If the police have anything to say to me, they'll figure out who I am and they'll come to my fucking house. You know, uh, I'm like, fuck that. I would have swung on the kid, and when I felt it was appropriate to be able to get away, I would have grabbed the wife. I would have been like, we're getting the fuck out of here. We would have sprinted to the car and peeled the fuck out, is what would have happened. I'm comfortable with certain aspects of self defense that may not always be 110% above board. I would never tell somebody else that they have to be, though. I would never advise somebody else to be like, oh, well, dude, you could just choke the guy and then lie to the cop. Not saying I would do that personally, but like that's an example of like, well, somebody might be willing to do that kind of thing, and I would never tell somebody to do that, right? Um, would you say that you and the activism guys accomplished anything, or were you ultimately just risking arrest for fun and thrills? A little bit of both. We definitely accomplished something. And this is something that like I talked to Taylor, like I said, he said I was going to be back on PKA, but I'm not going to force that kind of situation. If I can get Kyle to not talk about Band of Brothers, and if I can get Woody to not talk about how much he hates Trump for just enough time, I'm going to share as close to a start to finish as I can about my days in the activist world, because it really is a thing that if you're not in it and you don't truly have that explanation from start to finish, you're not really going to understand it 100%. But yes, eventually I and some of the other guys were in a place where we were just kind of in it because it was we were addicted to the adrenaline, if we're being honest here. But um the things we accomplished, like for instance, we were one of the first groups of people who really focused on trying to utilize information dumps about specific Antifa activists. We weren't the first, but we were in my region anyway. We were really the only ones doing it specifically in my region, and we were some of the first people who were like, hey, why are we the only ones getting doxxed here? Why don't we release information that we are able to find that is public, so we're not actually doxing anybody because doxing is illegal, but why don't we release information about what these people are doing at things? And you saw Antifa, one, they started wearing masks again. They were so confident in New England that they stopped wearing masks for a little while. Eventually, they started wearing masks again after we did enough of that. And then in addition to that, their numbers dwindled when they realized, oh shit, like my deeds could be put on the internet and they could be connected back to me, and that would be a really bad thing to happen. Ooh, shit. Oh, fuck. I don't need that. I don't want that. But then you also had basically the restructuring of right-wing activism that happened because of my group of people. If you take a look at the game before my guys and you take a look at the game after my guys, and I call them my guys not because they were like I was a leader or anything like that. We didn't have leaders. We were horizontally organized. But if you take a look at activism before and activism after, you notice there's a stark difference. Even in a group, say like Patriot Front. Patriot Front would never admit this because Thomas is a bit of an egomaniac, but And it's not even necessarily Thomas. It's like the people below him are really the problem, if we're being honest here. But um, Patriot Front, before my guys hit the scene with the tactics that we were utilizing, their thing was, hey, hey, we're putting up stickers. Did you put up enough stickers this week? You only put up 3 stickers, dude. You got to put up more stickers. We're going to do a banner drop. There's like 2 of us in this region, but we're going to do a banner drop. You know, like that was Patriot Front before. And then we came around and we introduced a new way of doing things, and Patriot Front ripped our shit from us, which was the point of what we were doing. We didn't want to be the top dogs because that would put us in a place where we could be targeted a lot easier. You know, we would be like the top priority if we were like the top dogs doing what we were doing, you know? And what we did was we moved away from both criminal behavior, which I'm not saying Patriot Front was into criminal behavior, but we moved away from like criminal behavior and edgy optics and things like that. And we moved towards more healthy living, healthy lifestyle, healthy mindset, trying to be as trendy as we could, to be honest with you, forming a culture that is a lot healthier than like the Wiggerification of America that had been going down for a long time, you know? Um, and like groups like Patriot Front saw what we were doing, and because the politics on the right wing, and I don't mean politics like we believe in free speech and low taxes. I don't mean that kind of politics. I mean like this guy doesn't want to work with that guy. This group doesn't work with that group kind of politics. That kind of politics. Because of the politics, like Patriot Front was never going to either A, be patched over by us, or B, want to patch us over. So they just ripped our tactics straight from us, you know? They fell right into what we were trying to have them do in the first place, which was like be better, you know? But we like you know, we didn't create our shit thinking we were going to overtake like any of those other groups or anything like that, you know? Um PKA fans could use a break from Woody's endless hobbies. Yeah, like I love the PKA guys. Taylor's my boy. But yeah, that is kind of a frustrating thing, is like I assumed I did a bad job my first time because I was sick as a dog. Like by hour 2, I was in like I could only describe it as another dimension. I was in a fog, my body hurt, my head hurt. I was just like, oh fuck. I was just trying to get through it. But then I realized like, oh no, these guys literally do ignore their guests. I don't watch full on PKA episodes. I don't have 4 hours to spare most of the time. So I tend to watch clips. I'll binge watch clips. And the clips are obviously they're the highlights of the show. So you don't realize how much time gets spent from a new guy who's not comfortable with the idea of interrupting to change the subject. You don't realize like how much downtime there is for the guest just sitting there listening to like, so yeah, I watched the Titanic the other day, you know, and it's like, oh man, like they've been doing it for so long, it's just like a weekly obligation for them, specifically Kyle and Woody. You know, Taylor's been doing it for I think like 12 years now, so yeah, I'm sure it's also probably a bit of an obligation for him too, and it's the way he makes his money. He doesn't have a job other than that. So it's like I get it, you know, week after week having to do the, so what do you do, Joe Rogan type shit. It's like, yeah, that maybe they don't have the stamina. They're just not interested in like constantly doing that all the time. But yeah, it is a little frustrating, people like talking shit about me, and it's like, yo, what am I supposed to do? Be like, hey Kyle, nobody gives a fuck anyway. Hey Woody, shut the fuck up. Anyway, like no, like I'm not. Of course, I'm not gonna do that. Fucking, they're nice enough to have me on. You know, if they're gonna talk about something, I'm gonna let them talk about that. And if I can chime in, I'm gonna chime in. But if I can't, then I'm going to sit politely and I'm going to listen. Maybe I'll learn something about the topic. And then when there's a chance for me to chime in with something, whether related or unrelated, I'll chime in. You know? Hey, 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 Woody, shut up. Trump rules. You suck. Anyway, um, the highlight of the show is Woody and Kyle spurring out at guests. Yeah. Yeah, and like that's what would happen the next that's what's going to happen the next time I'm on is like the first 3 times have been like, okay, I think I'm starting to get the feel here. I think I'm starting to kind of get it now. And now that I know, it's like, oh no, they're not going to hate the fuck out of me if I just like if I cut them off and I have a question, or if I cut them off and like, instead of finishing their train of thought, and now we're going in that direction. I can see that that's the way it's done from people like, say, Harley being on the show. And granted, I'm not Harley Morenstein from Epic Mealtime, you know. I'm not Harley Morenstein from Creator Clash 1 and 2. So, um, it's probably a little bit easier for him to feel that confidence to do that, but like I realize I got to be a little bit more like Harley in that case, um, some guests get shushed. Yeah. Oh yeah. Um, took a DNA test. Thought I was mostly Irish. Turns out I'm English. Get the fuck out, Buster Zuzu. Buster, black. You black and tan motherfucker. Actually, the black and tans were Irish, but oh man. Um, just ran out of toilet paper. Guess I'll use Ilhan Omar's headscarf. Yeah. Oh yeah. You know, we really ought to send those motherfuckers back. It's really, you know. Um, sorry, just looking around. There was this cop back when I was in school who said it's better to run away than to fight. Yeah, I mean it's always better to avoid a fight, 100%. Me, I consider myself to be a street fighting expert, which is the worst thing you could ever fucking call yourself because you sound like such a fucking blowhard. And I need a better thing to call myself. Self defense expert sounds a little bit too Krav Maga to me. And also, like, truthfully, I mean, I'm an expert in self defense, right? I'm a self defense expert, but what I do goes beyond that. What I do goes beyond, like, okay, so somebody runs up behind you and grabs you from behind. Here's what you're gonna do. That's not what I do, Um, I know things that you may never utilize if you have to defend yourself, Um, like you're in the middle of a barroom brawl for some reason. One of those like Western saloon barroom balls brawls breaks out where like some guy fucking turns and punches some guy, and then that guy who got hit turns and punches another guy, and you got to stay safe in that. Like, I can tell you how to actually stay safe in a situation like that and use whatever is at your disposal, excuse me, to fucking get out of there, to whack the other guy and not get whacked. But, I'm working on a book. When I lose a little bit more weight, which is actually probably going to be very soon, I'm losing weight. I'm down like 10 to 15 pounds right now. So I'm doing pretty good. The issue is I was like 280, 285. Um, last time I was at the doctor a couple of months ago. So like even though I'm down weight, it's like, oh man, I shouldn't even have been here in the first place, But when I get down a little bit more and I don't look as fat on camera, I'm gonna do the last video in a in a self-defense um um video. Why can't I fucking course, a self-defense video course. I'm going to do the last video in that. I'm also working on a book that is specifically dedicated to street fighting. Um, and when I can get done with that, I'm going to market it. And I mean, like, yeah, sure, like maybe the 100 to 200 people who watch my streams total, maybe some of you guys will be willing to buy it. If not, like, look, it is what it is, I wouldn't even know if you bought it, but oh, excuse me. Um, like it's gonna be independent of like, hey, fish tank guys, hey, e-boy career guys. Like I'm going to create a website. I'm going to create a brand based around it. I'm going to have a Facebook page. I'm going to be doing ads and stuff like that, you know. I'll publish it on Amazon as well, you know, specifically the book. Um, it's stuff like that. Like I'm going to do that, you know. Um, Tell Taylor ahead of time you're gonna drop. Hey Woody, you want to shut the fuck up for me? 1 hour in. That's that'd be a good idea because Taylor would get a kick out of that. Taylor would get a kick out of that. Taylor loves Woody, right? But he would find it funny if, especially if Woody wasn't even talking. If it was like a Kyle story, and I'm just like, Kyle, hold on, I gotta stop you there. Hey Woody, you want to shut the fuck up? He would love the fuck out of that. He would think that's the funniest thing, you know. I think Woody would chuckle at it too. Woody's got a good sense of humor. He's a good dude, you know. He's a good dude. I appreciate him. But yeah, I remember watching these streams back when Scott was on Fish Tank and he was wolfing down Jamaican beef patties like a hyena eating an elephant in the African plains. Oh yeah, you know. I mean, I have the soul of a fat kid. You know, I love food. And particularly when I'm stressed out, I I can't get enough of it. And that's the issue is that like my life, without realizing it, my life got so out of control that the only thing I had that made me feel even a little bit better was to eat my feelings, was to eat the problems, you know? And like now that even though I'm still really fucking stressed, I see a light at the end of the tunnel with this move that I'm getting ready for. Um Life is, I feel like things are gonna maybe possibly hopefully gonna knock on wood, you know, knock on wood there. Hopefully things are gonna start to get a little bit better. And now that like I feel like I'm improving in that way, I'm realizing like, yo, dude, I used to eat whole fucking packs of cookies, like the fucking like 1, 2, 3 sleeve things of like the Chips Ahoy cookies. I used to be able to burn through those motherfuckers and I'd be like, hell yeah. Because I was not a fan of life, you know? And like I said, I'm still not doing that well right now, but I feel like I'm probably doing a little bit better in terms of like my outlook and the way I'm thinking about things, you know? Um, Woody would say, golly. Yeah. Golly. I feel like I could do a good Woody. I feel like I could do a good Woody. Oh yeah, 285 is my all-time max, hands down. My all-time max used to be 240 back when I was in high school. I was on these pills that made me gain weight. Um, and I lost a ton of weight after high school and I was walking around at like between 185 and 195, which was not a bad weight for me. 6 feet tall, and I'm built wide. You know, I didn't realize till a few years ago how big I am. Not just tall, but like I'm built like a brick shithouse. You know, that's what low self esteem will do to you. You know, you won't realize just how big and imposing you are. I'm like I'm fucking wide. You know, I'm built wide. Um, I'm built like somebody who's meant to be like hiding in the trees, waiting for a Roman scouting party to move through the path so I can fucking descend upon them. You know, that's what I'm built like. Um, but yeah, like I got married. Married life will do that to you, and it won't even be your wife's fault. It's just like the adjustment is so like you get home and you just want to be with your wife, and you're like, I don't even want to cook food. You don't want to cook food. Whatever, let's just fucking order out. Who cares? Haha, you know? And then before you know it, you've ordered out like 3 or 4 times that week, and you've eaten like some of the worst food that you could have eaten. And now you're like way overweight, you know? My wife's in good shape now, but she did put on a lot of weight when she first got here, and that was because of depression because she missed her homeland. She missed Brazil, you know. She was homesick, you know. And I'm really proud of her because she lost all that weight and then she donated a kidney. And now she's in really good shape, you know. I'm very very proud of her. Oh, excuse me. Um, Overeating is a serious addiction, honestly, no different than a drug problem. Yeah. Oh yeah, you know. Anyway, um, but this right here, this right here, okay? This is one of those this is another thing that I wanted to talk about today, okay? This is another thing I wanted to talk about. 2026, we're all going to make it. I believe that. I believe we're all going to make it. We're all going to make it in our own way. You know, my make it is not going to be the same as your make it, but we will make it. You know, we're not all going to the same place. I mean, how could we be going to the same place? The place would be very overcrowded, you know, but I do think we'll all make it. Um, what if alt hist? I actually used to like this guy's videos. He had pretty interesting takes that I appreciate. I'm gonna have to check in on him. I know he was kind of crashing out over the last like year or so, specifically on Twitter. But I hate that so much of the right is all about live a humble life, just start a family and be a pillar of the community. What about attaining greatness? What about changing history and ending the tyranny that your people live under? Why is that off the table? Why must we cut ourselves short? Now, I get it. I get what he's saying, okay? And I agree with him. The issue is, and this is where I'm going to sound like an asshole. Not everybody is meant for greatness. Not like what everybody's supposed to slay the dragon. How many dragons are there to slay? I think there's too many guys for each of us to be slaying a fucking dragon, you know? Most people are just not built for greatness. If we're just being honest here, they're built for mediocrity. They're built for living on a homestead and raising animals. And actually, they're not even built to do something like that. You know, they're built to just go to work, come home, raise kids, and just try to not fuck the world up. That's really all they're built for, you know? And I talked about this recently. It's an issue that I have when I talk about something, say like right-wing culture, right-wing art, where you have people who they'll be like, dude, we don't need to make hip hop. You just need to listen to Wagner. And it's like Wagner's like 200 or more years old. He's not relevant in today's society, and no group of youth are gonna be like, yeah, let's listen to that fucking yeah, let's listen to that shit at the party for sure. Let's do it. That's not gonna happen. No group of 15 to 20-year-old kids, or even 20 to 25-year-old kids, is gonna be like, oh shit, let's play some Wagner, let's play some Bach or some Haydn at the function. Yeah, let's totally do that. Not going to happen. Sorry. It's just not going to happen. And the reason why people think that, the reason why people think that that's viable is because they simply do not have the computing power to truly understand what it takes to really fix a society. So those people, what they should be doing is this right here. Is exactly this type of shit right here. Not everybody is built to be the Alexander the Great. What would have been great about him if everybody was that? Some people are destined for greatness. I believe this, you know? And greatness doesn't necessarily always mean rich or famous or anything like that. Greatness can be changing the game in a way that people don't even realize, right? It can be moving the needle just that much, right? You have some people who they take it to another level, and we remember those guys' names, like I said, Alexander the Great or Julius Caesar or someone like that. But for the most part, people are not going to be that, you know? They will follow that man, but they will not be that. And this is why democracy is a sham, because when you see the state of the right wing on, say, the internet, like Twitter or something like that, who gets raised up? It's people like Ashley St. Clair. It's grifters. It's people who should not be listened to, and yet they're listened to because some guys think, ooh, pretty girl, or they see some guy who says the N-word, and because he says the N-word on like Omegle or something like that, it's not even around anymore. Whatever the modern equivalent of Omegle is, people are like, aha, that guy rules. I want him to make decisions now. And it's like, yo, that is bad. That is real bad, you know? The fact is, most people were not meant to have a real voice. You know, most people were meant to be a face in the crowd. And I don't believe I was meant to necessarily be a face in the crowd. And my life, in my opinion, is a good example of that. Am I saying that I was meant to be Kim Kardashian levels of famous or even rich? No. However, I was meant to be a part. There's this guy on YouTube. It's not even a guy himself. It's like there's AI reads his book. There's like an AI book reading of this dude named Billy Waugh. He says that a warrior is someone who wants to be involved, period. It's not about fighting. It's not about this, that, the other thing. And like, yeah, sure. There's a little bit of like military, like I was in the special forces. Here's my story, bravado to it. But Billy Waugh is like confirmably, he is provably actually the kind of guy he claimed to be. Um, and his stories are fun to listen to, you know. And I think that's a good philosophy to have, right? Um, I'm meant to be involved. And like I said, the things that I've told you guys, I think that proves it, you know? Um, the next thing that happens with me, I know it's going to be something where I'm going to be at the epicenter of something, even if I'm not the guy who's known for being a part of that. But enough about me. Enough about me. Okay? I'm just trying to explain to you that, like, I'm not just sitting here with an unearned ego, you know? I have experiences that most people do not fucking have. And that's because of the intellect that I was gifted with. But anyway, again, enough about me. The more I talk about me, the more I sound like a fucking dickhead, and I apologize for that. But the point that I'm trying to make with this is yes, most people should live a humble life. And the thing is, right? Be a pillar of the community. That is the exact way that somebody who is meant to live a humble life, somebody who is not meant to be a mover or a shaker, is going to move the needle. That's exactly what they need to be doing. They need to be the president of their HOA. They need to be on the select board or the county seat or the whatever. They need to be the mayor. They need to be the alderman. They need to be somebody who is able to control aspects of their community so that when some fucking asshole comes in and says, we need to teach kids about butt sex and cutting dicks off, you can say, nah, we ain't get in our schools. No way. Get out of here. Go. Move away. Move the fuck away. Get out of here. In fact, kill yourself. Better yet, kill yourself. Do that instead. Fucking that's what needs to happen, right? You can talk about how great someone like Julius Caesar is and stuff like that, but if Caesar didn't have the grunts, if he didn't have the dudes who were willing to just shut up and keep their opinions to themselves and listen to the great man, Caesar would have been a nobody. So there is sort of like a give and a take. It is sort of cyclical a little bit. What that cycle is, I don't exactly know, but it goes both ways, you know, where it's like Caesar needs his troops, the troops need Caesar, right? Um, just don't get an ego. You know, don't get the kind of ego that has you in someone's comment section going, no, actually, what you need to do is listen to fucking Gregorian chants. You listen to Gregorian chants at the party, and that's how we're gonna change the culture. That's right wing art. You know, people in that video telling me, dude, what are you talking about? You know, what, you've never heard of this person? Like literally, I'm a great example. Uh, Okay. Somebody on my video where I talk about why right wing art sucks says look up Ramilia Core and Elena Velez. Not all right wing art sucks. You just need to look harder because if you don't, you may find that your institutions have been taken over without you realizing. The fact that I don't know who they are and I have to ask this guy who they are and what they do and where to find them should tell you everything. Now, I'm not saying that every single right wing artist or every single artist that is not explicitly left wing needs to be 1,000,000% mainstream. But the fact that you can just throw names at me that I've never fucking heard of and use the fact that I've never heard of them as some kind of proof that, like, no, actually, we're doing fine. It's like, no, actually, we're doing really shitty. We're doing really fucking shitty. And yes, if you have to look harder, that disqualifies it. Excuse me. Um, fuck. The burp made me lose my train of thought. Oh yeah. kids aren't deep diving into like right wing art. I had no clue RAC existed until I met the activist guys, because one of the dudes was like friends with an old skinhead that put him on to all the music and stuff like that, and he introduced me to some of the music. Some of that music, I'm not gonna lie, is it's not the type of stuff that would ever get played on the radio, but some of it, yeah, it's listenable. It's listenable, and it's not explicitly like 1488, you know? Excuse me. I could play stuff for you right now that could get, even if not played on the radio necessarily, it's stuff that's like, it's listenable. If you played it around people, they would have no clue that it's even right wing in the first place. And that's the whole point, is to pull people in with things that they don't realize is overtly political in that way. You know, much like how, say, like rage, like that's what a lot of RAC is. A lot of it is like kind of rage against the machine, but right wing in a certain sense. You know, not exactly the same, but I've played some RAC for you guys in the past. I would recommend Better Dead Than Red. There's a song called Kick 'Em in the Head. There's a band called White Law. I would recommend Kick the Reds In. RAC by Brutal Attack. They do explicitly mention National Socialists, but like, you know, it's like, it's not, they're not talking about like minorities and shit like that in that song, you know. um there's good songs and there's bad songs, just like with everybody, you know. But the point I'm making is like, you need something where somebody's going to hear it at a party, they're not going to automatically identify it as something that they don't want to listen to. And you need something where someone's not going to have to deep dive into like some esoteric genre of music, or like type of painting or something like that, in order to find the good stuff. Because Teenage Rage Against the Machine, I really liked System of a Down, and I was like, oh, they're left wing, I want to be left wing. Either way, how you doing? Ride of the Valkyries is a certified hood classic if it was intended for a circus. Yeah. Julius Caesar never told anyone to kill themselves. An underachiever, if you ask me. Sounds about right. Sounds about right. You know, maybe if he told more people to kill themselves, he would have lived a full life. You know. Scott's wife must be loving the weather right now. Oh, dude, she can't get enough of it. You know, she can't get enough of it. I keep meaning to try and build a snowman with her. I want to build a snowman with her. Because that's one of those things. It's like, you got to build a snowman. I understand not wanting to have a snowball fight. We're in our we're in our fucking 30s, you know. But like, let's just build a snowman at the very least, you know. But I keep forgetting to try and do that with her. You know, the snow is too tall right now to be walking around in, so it's like we ain't got much of a choice but just, you know, like, wait for it to melt and hope it snows a little bit more in a way that we can walk over. But I don't think that's gonna happen. Anyway, there was one more thing, but yeah, when it comes to, just to put a cap on that, you know, like when it comes to people, I don't look down on anyone. However, I can very quickly discern the difference between somebody who is actually worthwhile to listen to and somebody who's not, you know? And I'm not going to listen to somebody who's not worthwhile to listen to. Most people do not have that discernment, because most people, they don't actually have a real intellect underneath whatever their political views are. They're just focusing on how they feel. Their politics is all feels. And it's not just a left wing thing that people are like, oh, but I feel this way, or I feel that way, or this feels right, or this feels wrong. You also have people on the right wing who are the same exact way, you know? Um, that's why the right wing grew in the way that it did, because they attacked men, they attacked white men specifically. And because of that, well, you're hurting the feelings of white men. So, what are these people whose feelings you just hurt going to do? Well, they're going to look for the people who don't hurt their feelings, and they're going to adopt those standpoints. And that's where that whole low IQ anti Semitism thing comes from. I use low IQ anti Semitism as a concept, as a way to describe low IQ right wing thought as a whole. You know, even though anti Semitism is not exclusively a right wing thing, I've heard right wingers use it to describe other people on the right wing who are just like dumb as rocks. And, you know, they just can't help but fucking be dumb loud, You know, they not only are they ignorant, but they're going to be loud about it. You know, that meme. You know what I'm talking about? With that smug black chick Pepe on it. You know, it's ridiculous. So, oh, gotta go here. I want to read some stuff before I go into the next thing. I have a fight we're going to be looking at. Um, if everyone tried to achieve greatness, society falls. But if everyone is a worker ant, then society never advances. Exactly, you know. And you don't need that many people as great people. You only need like one or two great people per generation. That's really all you need, you know. Um, specifically in your society, you know, it's like if we had a great leader pop up in America, that's not really going to benefit Poland necessarily, right? Like our great leader in America is going to be the American great leader, the Polish great leader is going to be their great leader, you know, that type of thing. But you get what I'm trying to say, you know. At the end of the day, somebody has to make the sandwiches. I remember that episode of Grounded for Life where I think his name was Uncle Charlie or something like that. I could be wrong though, but the skeezy uncle is talking to the redheaded chick who's like the daughter. I think her name was Lily. I'm forgetting all the names. And he's talking. He's like, "Look, somebody has to make the sandwiches." And sure enough, she takes that to heart, and she's like repeating it and stuff like that. Like, yeah, somebody's got to make the fucking sandwiches. It's just the way it is. Somebody has to keep the factories going. That's just the way it is. You know, we need factory workers. And that's one of the things as automation takes over. I don't know what the future is going to look like in that way. If we're going to be able to grow sectors that are not able to utilize automation, or if there's going to be some kind of weird UBI situation. I could see UBI potentially being a thing depending on how deep automation goes. I don't know. We'll see what happens, right? I'm not saying it's a good or a bad thing. I'm just saying, like, what are you going to do with all these people out of work, you know? But what's going to happen with these people who they can't keep busy with working the factories, with making the sandwiches and all that other stuff, they're going to start to delude themselves into believing that they're fucking philosophers and that they have something valuable to say when they don't, you know? It's like I said, just take a look at the types of people, and especially on the right wing, because the right wing right now is very centralized. You have a big tent full of a bunch of different groups of people who all centralize around their favorite speaker. You have some people who are straight up like PragerU, Ben Shapiro types that are like, yeah, no, Ben is totally, he's the smartest guy ever. And they can't stand someone like Nick Fuentes. You have people who they congregate around Fuentes, the Groypers, right? They can't stand someone like Shapiro and things like that. And I'm not saying every single person that the right lifts up is like not worthwhile. However, if I'm being honest with you, 80 to 90, maybe even 95% of the people that the right lifts up and makes into a figurehead are slop. They are slop people. They are people who, because they're good, they have good personalities, right? They get lifted up because they're willing to say racial slurs. They're will or give people who don't want to say racial slurs like a good excuse to still hold a belief about a certain group of people. Like those are the people that get lifted up. It's the grifters, you know. The left wing has their own grifters, don't get me wrong. However, Hassan Piker is not considered to be a figurehead or a leader of a movement or anything like that. You know, Vosh is not. These are guys who people watch them, but overall, the left wing is a lot more street level. It's a lot more robust, and it's a lot less bogged down by figureheads who think that if you don't do it their way, well then you're the enemy or something like that. You have plenty of issues when it comes to left wing organizing, you know. Um, but when it comes to that issue with the figureheads, they tend to not have that issue, you know. If you want to see a hilarious fight, type Ilima Lay McFarlane versus Katie Castro. It's only 11 seconds. Oh boy, I can only imagine how ridiculous that is. Il is that one L? It looks like one L. Ilima Lay McFarlane. Damn. Is this chick black or is she Asian? She's got to be black or Asian. I haven't actually looked her up yet. I'm just curious because that name, Elena Lay, has got to be black or Asian. Versus KT Castro. I'm gonna have that on deck, ready to go. XFS. No. Oh, she's from Honolulu, Hawaii, so she's probably a half-u or something like that. She's probably like half Pacific Islander, half not, half not. She's probably half Pacific Islander, half Irish. Oh, excuse me, jeez. The fight became infamous due to the extreme mismatch in skill experience with Castro, a novice fighter with an 0-2 record facing McLean, professional debutante. Oh, was this Oh, that one. Yeah. Yeah, that was some of the dumbest shit. Yeah. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. We'll watch this one. This was you couldn't escape this fight like 10 years ago. I guess 11 years ago at this point. Shit. Yeah, January 18th, 2015. You couldn't escape this fight back in the day. It became super viral, But yeah, we'll watch that and we'll talk a little bit about how like bullshit the fight world is. But anyway, so what we have here is a prison. Now prisoners are getting cell phones that get smuggled in, and because of that, you're seeing a lot of footage from prisons. And yeah, it's pretty crazy that nothing happens. Nothing. Nobody confiscates these phones, but it's a prison. What you gonna do? So you're gonna see there's these two dudes. You're gonna have to watch though because something happens. So we have an ambush. So right here, we're gonna go back to that point right there. We're gonna talk about that. Boink. Yep. All right. So, what can we learn from this? For one thing, don't go to prison. That's a big piece. But for another thing, don't let people get this close to you. And I made that mistake just last weekend. Like I said, I allowed somebody to get that close to me. I'm not saying that you absolutely positively have like failed if you allow somebody to get that close to you. Sometimes you're talking to somebody and communication breaks down and it becomes a very tense situation. That happens sometimes, but try your best to not allow people to get that close to you. This dude could have done himself a service by stepping back a couple of feet. The reason why in this situation, even though this dude is not the one who swung, is because at the very least, if you took 2 steps back, he wouldn't have been so laser focused on the guy that's in front of him right there. He could have been a little bit more aware of his surroundings. It wouldn't have been as big a deal because if he decided to look that way and notice that there was a guy right here who I don't even know what the hell he's doing. It looks like he's straight up hiding behind the pole is what it looks like. If he looked that way, this guy may have seen that as an opportunity to swing on him. So distance is your friend no matter what is going down. You want to try to keep people away, at least like 5 feet away, I would say, at least. That's not like a hard, fast rule, but if you needed a hard number to be like, okay, how far away should I keep this guy? At least 5 or 6 feet. That way he's not in arm's reach. This guy right here, right? It's weird because like the way he hits him, right? Like I believe that's the first shot. It almost I don't know if this dude actually landed on the guy's head. I think he might have landed on the shoulder or something like that. It doesn't appear as though his head snaps or anything like that. This guy is also not throwing the hardest punches. He looks like he's missing some teeth. You can see missing teeth from all the way over here. This might be a junkie, right? And I don't know what prison system this is. Depending on the prison system, it could be racially segregated, but I don't know if this is a racially segregated prison system. Like, if you're in that environment, you do got to keep in mind, like, yo, like, these dudes are they're gonna fight together, you know? Even if this dude doesn't plan on it, like, that dude might. But anyway, that aside, throws the punch, whether he lands it or not, he ends up reacting pretty well, right? And this is a good way to react in that situation. A lot of people, when it comes down to somebody swinging on you and trying to move forward, they think you should create distance. And if you can create distance, that's a good idea. You definitely should. However, in a lot of cases, and especially this one, because he would have ran into these dudes right here, he could not make distance. This dude was on him. He was too aggressive. He was too quick. He was too violent, right? So instead, this dude decides to close distance and wrap up the arms, which he does very, very well. You're going to see. Guy falls over, starts throwing some punches, and right here is something that I wanted to talk about. Now, I don't think this guy is trained or anything like that, but he made a very good choice here, and that is to utilize his body weight. A lot of people think that a black belt in jiu-jitsu means you know all these funky moves and stuff like that, but really what a black belt is more about than knowing a bunch of moves or even really being that good at the moves that you know is about how you use your weight, when and how. And that was very good. He saw that this dude was in a place where he was unstable, so he waded into him, he pushed into him, and he ended up on top. So now he's basically got like a knee on belly and what looks like this arm pinned. That might be an arm, that might be something else. I'm not 100% sure. It kind of looks like the dude's arm, but I don't know. He's got a knee on belly, that's for sure, you know? So he lands a couple. This dude turns to his belly, right? Which I know he's kind of being blocked. And that's a risky move in a couple of different ways, but it's not always the worst move. You're seeing more in MMA instead of dudes trying to fight out of the mount and go into, like, say, a guard position or something like that. They'll just turn their back to their opponent. Now, the risks are, one, you could get choked. And two, in a case like this where there's no rules or referees, you could and probably will get punched in the back of the head, which you do not want to take shots to the back of the head. You absolutely, if you were to get punched anywhere, you would want the exact opposite. You would want to take punches here. You don't want to take punches to the back of the head. But at the very least, if you can do so quickly, explosively, and you can avoid him hitting you, it may not always be the worst idea, okay? In this case, though, he ends up taking a couple of punches. This dude, he utilizes the momentary chaos to his advantage. He throws a kick, and he ends up dispatching this dude. So, like I said, I don't know if this was a racially segregated prison or not. And when I say racially segregated, I mean, I don't know if the prisoners purposefully avoid each other based off of race. I don't know if that's the case. I would assume maybe not, because that's really like, there's certain prisons that are like that. There's certain ones that are actually kind of not like that, or not as much like that, to my understanding. I would assume maybe not, because nobody jumped in to try and help this dude. Even this dude right here looks kind of fucking surprised right now, for one thing, and he just backs off and starts watching. And you even see all the dudes, again, who are not white. They're not even like Hispanic, I would assume. Maybe this dude's a little bit Hispanic, but he kind of looks black to me. They kind of just sit there like yucking it up. You know, they were enjoying the entertainment. So, um, you know, people think they know prison, and you know, each prison is a little bit different. I don't know if this is like a county jail kind of thing. I don't know if this is like an actual penitentiary, but regardless, good job to this guy. You know, I don't know what this guy's deal was, but you know, I don't think he's probably going to be doing that to too many more people. And yeah, you know, hey, got him. Anyway. Such dishonor on display. I can't believe it. It's like driving a car. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Let me check my stuff here. Justin Wang retweeted something that I wouldn't have expected him to retweet. I was talking about butt scooting, right? And you know what? Since we're on this topic, I'll talk about it, right? Um, shit. This is the retweet right here. This is what he retweeted, and I want to talk about this, right? This is BJJ Otter. I like this account. I engage with this account quite often. He engages with me too. A wrestler entered ADCC and was outraged to find out he's expected to pass guard. So ADCC Ireland, apparently. ADCC is Abu Dhabi Combat Club. That's like the mecca, I guess you will, of grappling, right? Combat grappling. So let's go ahead. So this right here, right? I think he's just like trying to give this dude the biz or something like that, you know? So you see right there, right? And you see right here, right? You see how he gives the leg up. This dude wanted an excuse to pull guard the entire time, so he decided he would dangle the leg out, right? He dangles the leg out because the second this dude right here touches that leg, that dude's going to sit to a guard. And that should be considered a takedown. Now the thing is, a lot of guard pullers will be okay with being taken down because I mean, hey, like it gives them their favorite position. But I think that's some bullshit, right? Now, this dude, if we're being fair, you're going to see he actually does try to utilize some takedowns, right? Like here, bang. That was pretty good. That right there was an arm drag into a trip. The trip didn't work, so on the way out, he tried to turn it into a single leg. That's actually pretty slick. If we're being fair to this dude right here, he gave it a shot. It just didn't work out, you know? So, you're going to see bang. Nice. I like that shit. Good for him, you know? There's a single leg, tries to sweep, and he ends up on bottom. For some reason he couldn't finish this takedown. I don't know what the hell his deal was, right? There was nothing stopping him from finishing that takedown. What it is that he wanted to pull guard. He wanted to play guard. So he shot in for a takedown, was like 90% of the way there, especially when he steps over here. It's like, nah, you got that, dude. You got it. It's all you, you know? There's multiple different things you could do from there, right? But for some reason he decides, no, actually, I'm just gonna chill here, right? And this is kind of where it starts. So I don't have an issue with this. This dude's playing the guard. He's doing his thing, right? He's trying to engage. He's trying to play offense. He goes for a sweep there. It doesn't work, you know? Nothing this dude is doing really works, right? Now, this is where I have the issue. I don't believe you should be allowed to butt scoot. It's one thing if you're going to pull guard. That's one thing. I don't think you should be allowed to sit to guard. But if you're going to pull somebody into a guard, that's fine. That's totally cool. Another thing is, I don't believe you should be allowed to butt scoot. If he is able to get up and disengage, this guy should be forced to stand. There should be none of that. That should not be allowed, you know? And you're going to see this is where the guy starts playing possum. This guy is not actually on offense right now. He's not actually trying to do anything. He's making it seem like he's trying to do something, but really what he's doing is waiting for this dude to play his game. And that's why you should not allow butt scooting like right there. We'll keep on watching before I kind of explain to you guys my thoughts on this. So here, right, he's trying to go for a leg entanglement. It's not really working that well for him right now. See, well, there's a better example that I'll show, right? Again, nothing is really working for this guy, you know? Here, if somebody wants to butt scoot, if somebody wants to do this, you stack them brutally. You try to break their spine with your stack is what you do. And you don't move out of there. You make them tap from the pressure of your stack. That's what this is called. I know it looks really fucking gay, but in this situation right now, this guy can't do anything so long as this dude has this dude's legs basically touching the mat or crushing into his own nose, right? That's the answer to this. The rules say that that's okay. You can stack and you can hang out there. And when the referee says, hey, you got to move, you're stalling, well, then fine, you move so that you don't get called for stalling. But until then, you stay there and you make this guy pay for being a fucking woman about it. You make this guy pay. Again, like this dude, he tried his best. He tried his best at upright grappling. He hit some pretty cool shit. He almost hit some pretty cool shit. But like I don't have any respect for somebody who fucking butt scoots like that. Just stop. You know. Um Again, stack him. Don't let him move. So I don't know what the score was. I don't know if there was a score. Okay. I didn't see anything that would have given this guy any points. He probably won on advantages. I would assume there's advantages. I would assume there's advantages in ADCC rules. I would guess there are. Maybe, maybe not. But regardless, I would assume the referee had to make a decision as to who he thought won. And because this guy was active off his back, he gave it to him. There is no good explanation for butt scooting. There is no excuse that justifies it. There is no way for you to say no, butt scooting is a part of jujitsu and it belongs in jujitsu because there are plenty of reasons why you should not be allowed to butt scoot in a jujitsu tournament. For one thing, it's not realistic in terms of a real fight. And you can sit here and be like, well, if I wanted a real fight, I'd get into a real fight. Jujitsu, including the tournaments, is supposed to be about an aspect of how a real fist fight would go. That's why the people who basically popularized jujitsu, the thing that this guy is doing right here, created the Ultimate Fighting Championships instead of just having the IBJJF, assuming that was even around at the time, and just keeping it there. They wanted people to understand that, yes, this is actually good for real combat against other people who are not playing explicitly by the rules of jujitsu. So that's why they did the things that they did, both in creating the UFC as well as the way that they fought in the UFC. And you can say what you want about how they kind of tilted it in their favor. I agree with you there. It seems as though they tilted it in their favor. But regardless, it was still a lot more combat effective than anything but scooting. Okay. Now, in addition to that, it also creates a situation where one kind of grappler has an unfair advantage because not only do they get to sit down and butt scoot and avoid half of grappling in the first place, which is the stand up portion of it, but in addition to that, there are aspects of the rule set that don't allow you to do certain things as somebody who is not this kind of grappler. Like, for instance, if this dude jumped guard on that dude, now ADCC, I do believe there is slamming, but in, say, like the IBJJF or Naga or something like that, you have to be very careful about slamming. You're not allowed to do that. So if somebody jumps guard on you, you are actually legally required to let them do that, let them finish the move. You have to catch them. So you have to catch another person's entire body weight after they jump on you and wrap their legs around you, and then you have to slowly put them down on the ground. And because of that, it disallows you from actually doing anything against that. Because legally, if you don't want to get disqualified, you just have to let them do it. Another piece of that is slamming, say, in a triangle. Now, a lot of people don't realize the way to not get slammed in a triangle or an armbar for that matter is to make sure you have the leg wrapped. And I can talk about that later. But a lot of people get slammed because they do not actually utilize proper form when they're utilizing triangles. That is not the fault of the person in the triangle. That's the person that's I don't know why I can't talk now. That is not the fault of the person who is in the triangle. That is the fault of the person applying the triangle. So they should be made to pay for that if they do not utilize proper form. And because of that, if you pick somebody up in the middle of a triangle, you also have to put them down nice and gentle and you have to basically let them finish the triangle, let them get a jump on finishing the triangle instead of being able to slam the fuck out of them like you would if somebody caught you in a triangle and they were doing nothing to keep you from standing up. You know, there are plenty of reasons why butt scooting and a lot of other aspects of like guard heavy jujitsu should not be allowed. There's no reason why all of those things should be allowed. You cannot tell me one thing that it brings to the table that makes it any better, meaning the sport of jujitsu or just grappling in general. You have nothing, nothing at all. So why do we have it around? Because you want to win gold medals at like a local naga or something like that? Because it's the only way you know how to win because you're a piss poor grappler. You can only play one way and that's it. I can go from top position and bottom position. And I know how that sounds. I'm sure High Ecuador is going to fucking love that I just said that, but I'm good from both areas. I'm a little bit better from top because I'm better with my top pressure, I'm better with takedowns and things like that, but I can work both. You take a lot of these dudes who are guard pullers, who are butt scooters, and they have no fucking top game at all. And that's why this dude actually almost hit some pretty slick takedowns, but he couldn't finish them. Because what he was hoping was to create a scramble in which he could just sit down on his butt and start trying to work for leg entanglements or some other thing like that. You know? It's just stupid. He's using bunda apresentao, apresenta, apresentação. No no jutsu. Oh boy. Yeah, basically, Like the answer until the rule set is adjusted so that people like that cannot survive without being severely penalized. uh, the way to deal with that until these people start getting penalized because of rule changes is to stack the fuck out of them. When they try to invert on you, you take their ankles, you push them down to the mat, and you stay there for as long as you are legally allowed to stay there. And you do not let them move. You make them claustrophobic. You make it so that they want to tap just from the pressure, which is actually a very shameful thing. If you tap to knee on belly, your black belt's going to take his belt off and start whipping the fuck out of you. That's what you do to these guys. You absolutely fold them in half in a way that's going to cause some kind of spinal injury, is what you do. And I'm not saying that because it's like, yeah, fucking hurt somebody. I'm saying that because they want to be pussies. They want to be like annoying. They want to be rules lawyers about like, well, I mean, maybe you just need to get better at passing guard. What, you're so bad at jujitsu that the best way to beat you is sitting down? It's part of the rules, bud. Yeah, that's the rules. Yeah, well, the rules say that I don't have to be nice about my stacking pressure. So don't be surprised. You know, it's it's just the way it is. But then again, truthfully, the way the powers that be in the jujitsu world will react to that, they'll say, "Well, you can't stack that hard then. Never mind. You're not allowed to stack that hard anymore. That's the way it is from now on. You're not allowed to stack that hard. You can stack for a total of 3 seconds and you're not allowed to stack too hard." And after that 3 seconds, the referee is gonna call you gay, and he's gonna give 1,000,000 points to the guy on bottom who's getting stacked. That's what's gonna happen. It wouldn't surprise me if that's if that's what happens instead. You know. But yeah, if you're a top heavy grappler and you got to don't do this to people in your gym. But if you're at a tournament and you got some fucking 135-pound guy who thinks he's slick and he's gonna invert on you, just fucking pressure down on him, turn him into a pancake. It's that simple. You know, you may not get the tap, but you make that guy a little bit afraid to invert on you again. You make that guy a little bit afraid to try his fucking guard bullshit. All of a sudden, he doesn't want to be underneath you anymore. You know, he's just doing anything he can to get back to his feet or to try and end up on top, you know? Um, Sorry, looking around. What was it? Oh, yeah. So, yeah, this right here. So everybody knows what happens here, right? Bang. So yeah, every everybody knows about this. This was actually this woman's pro debut, and I guess she is kind of like somebody in the MMA world. She had like a Wikipedia page or something like that. You know, I don't pay attention to women's MMA, so I don't fucking know anything about this chick. But um, this was like 10 or 11 years ago. You could not escape this, and this is exactly what the problem with the MMA world is. It's been like that for a while, but you're especially starting to see an issue with it as time goes on, where you have a lot of guys who they come up and they're 7-0, 8-0, 9-0, and they are fighting dudes or chicks who are basically pulled from the stands. I guess that I guess this woman, right? I guess this woman had like a record of like 0 and 2, which means she was probably taking beatings for the money, is probably what was happening. Um, and because of that, well, you know, she figured she'd take a beating for the money against somebody who was trying to pad her record, which is this Ilima McFarlane chick. I'm pretty sure this is the Ilima chick right here. I'm forgetting the names for some reason, but regardless, the MMA world is actually going through a talent drought right now, which a lot of people are starting to notice it. I've noticed it for a long time, and I've been talking about it for a long time as somebody who's had multiple fights, who has been on that dirty side of the fight world where, like, you have dudes that are trying to purposefully find easy wins for themselves so they fight people they shouldn't be fighting. I've experienced it myself. I've been that guy who, like, somebody lies about their experience, and because of that I take a fight with somebody who I think is on my level, but really they should be fighting somebody who has had like 3, 4, 5 fights by now, you know. um it's fucked up, you know, but that's the way things are going, and what you're seeing is dudes who they've never had any actual real um matchmaking. They've never fought anybody who isn't a cardboard cutout. They haven't fought anybody who's not a fucking pillow, who isn't knocked over by a stiff breeze. And because of that, you see a lot of dudes, they get on like Dana White's Contender Series, or maybe they get on The Ultimate Fighter and they do well there because they're fighting other dudes who have never really faced adversity. And then they get into the UFC, where the UFC is not favoring them in matchmaking. If anything, they're favoring other people in matchmaking. And because of that, they end up going like 1 and 2, 2 and 2, 0 and 2 in the promotion, and they get cut because they never belonged there in the first place, because they're barely even a regional talent. They're not even beating the other guys in the region who are any good. They're beating dudes, in some cases they're fucking flown in. You see dudes like I could show you examples. There's dudes with records of like 16 and 100. It's because they're just going in there, they're catching a quick submission, they get paid a couple $1,000 and they fuck off, and somebody calls them because they have another guy that they're trying to build up in their promotion so that hopefully that guy will get sent to the UFC one day, and they fly into this place and they catch another quick armbar, or who knows, maybe it's a quick knockout this time, and they get paid a couple $1,000 and they fuck off. It's literally a situation. It's created a situation where you don't even get anything if you win. If that dude who's 16 and 100 beats that guy who's supposed to be a top prospect, he doesn't get any of the clout. He doesn't get any of the respect, or he doesn't get better matchups. It's not like video games where, you know, you get better matchups the more you win, and you get more clout, you get more money in the game and stuff like that. No, no. If you're a tomato can, if you're a journeyman, if you're a stepping stone, that's just all you are. And if you win, if anything, you're just doing yourself a disservice, because the guy who hired you to basically be a punching bag is going to be mad that you just beat one of his prospects. So he's not going to invite you back because you're not reliable. You're not a reliable punching bag. And that's what this is, you know? That's what this is, you know? if Katie won, she wouldn't have gotten any fucking praise for that. I mean, maybe the 20 people in the crowd. Holy shit! What a dismal crowd. Holy fuck. Maybe one of the 20 people in the crowd would be like, hey, atta girl, good job. But the promoter would have been like, yo, I don't ever want to see that woman again. She just beat somebody that I was supposed to be a big draw for me. So that way we can have more than 5 people in the crowd watching this person because she might be next up in the UFC. Tomato can MMA. Holy shit. I never noticed that. I never noticed that until now. Tomato can MMA. Need I say more? Need I fucking say more? But anyway, yeah, that's just the reality of the MMA world, and it's terrible. It's awful, And as somebody who wants to fight again, I need to be very careful about what kind of situation I walk into. I need somebody who's going to take care of me, and if I don't have somebody who will, I need to take care of myself. I need to be willing when I go to this promoter to be like, "Hey, I don't like that matchup. You got to either give me somebody better, or I'm not going to be able to fight." It's that simple. Um, it, it sucks. The fight game's dirty. It used to be a lot cleaner. I'm not saying it was ever 100% clean. The Yakuza were involved in Pride. Pride was easily the best promotion. Easily the best promotion, but the Yakuza was involved. There was a lot of doping in Pride. There was a lot of like sketchy shit. It's true. Everybody knows it by now, but at the very least, it was a little bit more straightforward. There was a lot more like dudes fighting each other because that's what we do. We fight. And if I got to take on Fedor today, I'm taking on Fedor. You had legends fighting legends every single card. Now you have like a bunch of people you don't give a fuck about on the undercard and the main card. And then like maybe the main event is like good. Maybe possibly, but you don't have super fights. You had a super fight almost every single card during Pride. It was insane, the matchups that they had, the matchups that they were able to make. You couldn't make that today because like I said, dudes don't want to face adversity anymore. When I got involved in this sport, I'm not going to lie to you, I did kind of know that this guy, he might be tough. He might be tough for me. Talking about the guy that lied about his experience, I knew, you know what? Like he could be tough for me, but I don't care because I figure we're all here for the same reason, to test ourselves, because we got that dog in us, and we're doesn't matter who we fight, we're gonna take the fight and we're gonna do it, and win, lose or draw, we're gonna fight as hard as we can. Is what's gonna happen. You don't have that anymore, and it sucks. It sucks ass. It really does. MMA is awful nowadays. It really, everything's awful nowadays because everyone's not interested in the spirit of the competition. They're just interested in by the numbers, how am I going to win? And that's where you get these guard pullers. That's where you get these people who, they're taking fights with soccer moms and shit like that. It's gross. It's gross. But anyway, um I'd say it's about that time now. I do got to hit the road. I had a good time tonight. I hope you guys had a good time as well. I should be. I think Verdum butt scooted against Overeem and Strikeforce. Most recent example is Kron Gracie, probably. Yeah, like even the Gracies kind of they sniffed a little bit too much of their own farts, and you had dudes in the UFC like Kron Gracie, fucking butt scooting, when he should be using a technical stand up to get back to his feet and get ready to fight. But anyway, thank you all so much for coming in tonight. I really appreciate you. Luckily, we were able to make this one work. Unfortunately, last night's did not work. I should be streaming, if not Friday, definitely Saturday, potentially Sunday as well, but definitely either a Friday and or a Saturday. And yeah, oh, excuse me. It's about time to get out of here. So, till next time, peace out.